All right, we are live and welcome once again to another episode of the Winner Circle, a podcast covering jiu-jitsu, MMA, and other combat sports. I am one of your hosts, Eugene Plowden, and with me as always, my podcast partner, Isaiah Gatherings. What's up, man?
What's going on?
If this is your first time with us, I want you to know we are members of the Martial Arts Center Network, and on Mondays, you got the Winner Circle with myself, Isaiah Gatherings, Chris Walker, Angel Diaz. Tuesdays, you get the Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. Wednesdays, the traditional way with Brett Shumway. Thursdays, Fifth Kicks and Flicks with myself, Joe Hartley, and Angel Diaz. For more information, you can check us out on all of our social media platforms. Just look for the Martial Arts Center Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Patreon. And don't forget the main app, the Martial Arts Center Network app. Zeke, it's showtime. What's happening, man?
How are you, man?
I'm cool, man. How you doing? You enjoying the weather?
I am. The weather here is great. The weather here is great. So, just for you guys, if you don't know, I'm in Vegas, and it's so funny because, there's people that I've known that's, been from like Vegas and California. They've been out here for a substantial period of time and they are sick of the sun, right? I know. The sun,
crazy.
they love it when there's rainy days, when it's gloom. They're like, this is a good day. So I was just like, you're nuts. Like, you're nuts. Like, I'm from the Midwest. The sun make guest appearances where I'm from, right? You know what I mean? It's not something that comes out every day. You cancel whatever you're doing that day if the sun's going to be out that day to soak it up and enjoy it. It's generally overcast back home, right? Sometimes you can't tell the morning from the afternoon from the evening, right? And yeah, so it's just like if it's a sunny day, it's a good day because it's typically overcast. Yesterday, I've been out here for 9 years now. Yeah, 9 years, 9.5 years. Yesterday, it was one of those gloomy days where it was gloomy and it was raining, and I found myself like one of those people. I'm like, this is a good day. Like, I don't know why. It felt like a great day. We needed the rain, because we don't get very much of it. So I was able to sit in, work inside, in my office from home and just listen to the rain. It was soothing and it was a change of pace. And then today the sun was back out again. So, but it's like 70 degrees. So it's nice, man. I ain't dealing with that cold weather y'all dealing with back there. That's
Yeah, know what? Yesterday was pretty nice, man. Yesterday we got up to close to 66 degrees.
Okay, bad.
But today just dived right back now. I'm back into the 30s, man. So, it is what it is. My wife hates when the weather does this, all the up and down. She rather it just stays cold. At least in the 50s until the springtime. She can't take it, especially allergies and stuff like that.
Allergies, but I'm starting to find that there's a large group of people, especially women, that this is their season because they get to wear the clothes. They want it for the clothes. They like,
right.
I get to wear my boots, I get to wear my scarf and my shawls and all this other type of stuff. So for us, it's just like, look, man, this is not functional. I need this. No. I need functional weather. I don't care nothing about the dress. I just need something where I'm able to function at a high level. So
and my wife knows. Like, I'm in t-shirts year round, all the time. T-shirts damn near every day. Even if it's cold, I got a t-shirt on. And shorts. T-shirts and shorts. I'm wearing that, especially in the house. As soon as I come home, I'm taking off my work clothes, taking off my uniforms. I'm putting on t-shirts and putting on shorts. I'm walking around the house. But I don't understand. You are right, man, because my wife definitely does say that. She loves the fall because she gets to put on different type of clothes. But I'm like, can't you get excited about the summer also? About the summer clothes that you get to put on there and wear?
Here's a couple things. One, women get away with saying that because they don't have the road that we have as men. In other words, when that snow start to hit and all the other type of stuff, they ain't got to be out in it. They ain't got to be out there shoveling it and putting salt and stuff like that down. And man, that's us. They trying to look cute. Yeah. We know what comes along with that cold weather, and it's additional hard work, labor for us. If you ain't got a remote car starter and you ain't got an inside garage, you got to go out there, start that car up for them so it can be warm. When they get in with the heated seats and all night, they don't have to deal. They don't deal with the elements the way a man has to. That's number one. When they think about looking cute, we're thinking about being warm. We're thinking about having to deal with all of the nonsense that comes along with the cold weather. So that's their thing. That's what I'm hearing more and more of. I never hear a guy say that. Man, it falls my time because I get to wear my turtlenecks. I get to wear, my windbreakers and my jacket. This is women say this. I don't hear guys say this.
You know what? I know one. I got one friend that says that, but I ain't gonna put him on blast. I ain't gonna talk about
Don't
it.
do it. Don't do it.
Well, he used to think like that. I don't know if he still does or not, but he used to think like that.
I mean, but it is some guys that like to wear suits and things like that. So, fall ain't winter, so you ain't freezing. So you get a chance to put your suit on and you get to step out. You can dress up, put your, fedora on or whatever. I guess I can see a guy saying that. I just don't hear them publicly announcing it. They may feel that way, but that ain't really what they're going around saying. Like women just like, this is my time of year. So,
man, as you get older too, man, that snow ain't no joke, man. I remember 2017 and 18, I thought the snow was about to take me out, man. I went out, shovel my walkway, my sidewalk, the driveway, man. I felt my heart beating hard and fast, man. I get back in the house, I'm thinking I'm down there about to have a heart attack, man. And now this is when I was a lot bigger than I am now. And the following year, I think 2019, I seen the snow. It came down, and I was like, you know what? I remember what happened last year. I'm not doing it no more. I'm gonna hire one of these kids to do it, But kids don't really be walking out.
They don't do it no more.
They don't do it no more. So this, I saw these guys. I saw grown men walking down the street, and I normally don't keep cash on me, but this particular night I had cash on me, and the snow needed to get shoveled. So I asked the guy, I said, you gonna do it? He said, yeah, I'll do it. So he went ahead and did it, right? I paid him, gave him some water. They went on their way. Man, he did half of my driveway. He did half of my driveway. I was like, damn, not again. That's not happening. The very, very next year is when I did the plant-based stuff. I had stopped eating all type of meat. I just did plant-based. And I felt a lot better. So when winter came around, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try and get out there and shovel. So, but I had been working out. I've been working out and eating right. So I knocked out everything and was fine. And I've been good ever since then. But, back in 2008, but it's still not the same. Like as a kid, we're outside shoveling snow, playing in snow for a long time. As you get older, man, as you get closer and creeping closer to 50, you trying to get out there, get it over with, and get back in the house.
I just have an issue with the elements, and the problem is this, and just keeping it a buck, man. And you from Detroit, so you might have been in the same boat as well. We get older, we get a couple bucks, you know what I mean, and these are issues that maybe we didn't have, but I had a lot of bad cars when I was growing up. I had a lot of bad cars. I had a lot of, back in the day, they was called hoopties, you know what I mean? And whatever you want to call them, junkers. And when the winter time came along, it already ain't friendly for your car to begin with, no matter what kind of car you currently may have.
Yeah.
But especially in situations like then back in the day where these cars were not in the best shape. So I was broke down quite a bit. And this happened in the wintertime. Right. So I'm outside trying to get jumps, trying to flag people down. And even if it's not, let's, talk about the fact that maybe my car wasn't broke down. What about in the morning where you have to I didn't have an indoor garage attached to my house. Right. I didn't have a remote car starter. I was young. So I was the remote car starter. I
still don't have it.
So what I'm saying is this. What a lot of people don't know is that your battery has some cold cranking amps. And if it gets below a certain temperature, if your car is not in a insulated or warm place, a place where it's sheltered and it's out in the elements, which mine was for many years, I may go outside to try to get in my car to go to work or go wherever I need to go to, and the car wouldn't start. I literally had to wait to a certain part of day when it warmed up before I'd be able to drive my car. Or what about when it was snow really bad? And because I didn't have the best tires, I would get stuck on side streets all the time. And I'd have to have a shovel in my trunk. I'd have to have runners to put up underneath my tires so it can get traction. I remember shoveling stuff myself out, shoveling other people out, pushing people, scooping snow with my hand, getting frostbite, like all type of crazy stuff. And when we get older, it's like, oh, we have better vehicles. But growing up,
but still, you got to make sure you get the right kind of vehicle, man. Because in 2008, I had bought a Charger. I bought it was rear wheel drive.
See,
so
fishtail,
I'm always fishtailing all the time. I hated driving that car in the winter.
It's too much work. It's not enough. It's not enough upside. Like, okay, I get it. Christmas, it looks nice out. It does feel odd when it's 70 degrees and the sun is out shining on Christmas. It does feel that way. I get it. Right. But after January 1st, it's just stupid. It's just stupid to be cold. It's stupid for it to snow. It's stupid for it to be cold. You expected Thanksgiving. It's cool. You know, it's a little bit of snowfall. You're there with your family. It looks like it looks on a Hallmark car or like a commercial, right? You know, then leading up to Christmas, you're in the spirit. You like to go out and shop. It's fun. It's nice. Great. Christmas Day, yeah, a little bit of snow come down. Oh, it feels magical. Okay, New Year's, we celebrate. You know, this is a new year. It's snowflakes coming down. Great. It's January 1st. This is stupid, right? Why is it not warm? I want it to be warm now. Like, I don't want to have to wait until May because that's when there's no more spring, by the way, if you guys don't know. Spring, there must have been some type of conversation that happened or some type of, you know, something happened, but spring is now gone, right? There is no more spring. Oh, yeah. Spring used to be in March around my birthday. That does not exist anymore. It does not get warm until May. Yeah, it don't get warm until May. It's just gone. It's just winter, you know, summer and fall. You know, no spring anymore. So yeah, it's crazy.
So let's talk about our first topic, man. The big sushi himself, Jeff Doss. Jeff sent us this message.
All right.
And I didn't know this was a thing, man. And you know, our main gang group chat was going off the other day. But yeah, Jeff posted this picture. I don't even know if I can I'm not gonna repost this on the screen.
You should be able to if it was on TikTok. Like that's not something that's like
this is somebody else actually posted this. Like this was a Facebook post that he copied and sent.
An issue, man. It's not like it's like ESPN or nothing like that.
So basically, but the person that's in it is talking. The person that this happened to. So a woman, it was a grappling tournament. It looked like it was a Naga event, and her arm is bit. Now this bite is not just one bite. This is multiple.
I wish our viewers can see it. Like I ain't trying to get his banned, but I don't think it's going to be an issue. I mean, if it was for public consumption, if it was on Facebook and somebody posted it,
I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead.
I don't think it's copywritten. I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think our viewers need to see this because I don't think us discussing it is going to really give it the kind of perspective that it needs. We're not going to do it any justice.
All right. So let me go ahead and email this to myself and then pull it up here. So basically, this person gets bit in a jiu-jitsu tournament, a Naga event, and this bite mark is ridiculous. Looks like homegirl just latched onto her and was just chewing on her arm. It's just not one bite; it's multiple bites. So let me see. All right, here we go. Let me download it. Pull this up, and I didn't know that this was a thing. I didn't know people were biting each other. Yeah, here it is. I didn't know that people were biting each other. So here it is.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So you've come across this before. This is brand new to me. I didn't know this was the thing. So unfortunately, this young lady, she's grappling. Just like she got the bag. She's going for a rear naked choke, and the person she's going up against is biting her multiple times on her arm. What do you do in this situation? Because reflexes is going to just jump in, and this person on the bottom is not in the best position because I'm going to hit her on the back of her head. I might grab her by her hair and just start slamming her head into the mat, punching her, elbowing. She's in a vulnerable. This is like the dumbest thing she could possibly do is to bite someone if you're about to get choked out. What do you think about this, Z?
Okay, so a few things. I try to frame things to perspective, and then I try to always play the devil's advocate as well. This has happened before. I am familiar with it. And what's interesting is that it happened with one of my students having done it to somebody else. This was an argument, at one of our events. So let me address this first. And since it's up, we may as well, read it. It says 2 points to be made here. Biting is a form of offense or self-defense is worthless without legit skills to follow up with. Some people shouldn't be competing and should be banned for life. So, number one, this has happened. I saw it in the UFC maybe like a year ago, where a guy had a submission on, and then he showed the referee his arm, and he had a bite mark on there, and the guy claimed he didn't do it, and then it's the UFC. They have all of the cameras and technology around, unlike something like this at a regional tournament, and they show when they slowed it down frame by frame. They show when he bit him. Obviously, the guy was disqualified, and the gentleman who was bit won. But then Dana White was so pissed about it that he banned the dude from UFC altogether. You know what I mean? And that, I think, was an appropriate response. Once they were able to slow things down and show it. So a few things about this picture, and then I'll get to my personal experience of what happened as well, or this situation that happened. So based on this, if it was a rear naked choke, this would have been a very difficult place to bite a person from based on how you apply that choke, which means that she must have been biting her when she was trying to secure the choke. If you look at where the bites are on the arm, this would have had to be where she's trying to get it up underneath the chin, and then she's biting her, because if you have the choke up underneath the neck, you wouldn't even be able to use your teeth to be able to bite, especially not that part of the arm at all. Right. So this had to be when she was seeking to get the choke. And it appears that she continued, based on the still frame, to continue to try to get the choke, even despite the fact she was bitten, because as you've articulated, she's been bitten several times, and these are deep bites. Now, there is a devil's advocate. There can be an involuntary situation where the mouth is open already. You know what I mean? And then the person, when they're trying to get it or go for the choke or something, and the person like arm goes across the mouth, and the person, while they're being choked, they end up biting down involuntarily. But that would not cause for there to be bites on multiple parts of her arm. That would only make sense if there was a bite mark on one part of the arm. Furthermore, Naga is typically pretty regimented, and strict about making sure that you adhere to their rules. And one of the rules is that you have to wear a mouthpiece, I'm guessing, to combat against this possibility. There's no way that she could have gotten bitten like this if she had a mouthpiece in, which means that either they're loosely enforcing that rule, or they were unaware that she had one, or she spit it out. I don't know.
Or she spit it out, yeah.
But they'll probably be enforcing it a lot stronger as this goes viral, because that will combat against situations like this happening. And again, the mouth, there is situations where you can possibly involuntarily do this based on where your arm is at. If you grab a choke and a person's mouth is open, they might accidentally involuntarily clamp down. But this is gnawing. This looks like biting, chewing. And if you look at the pattern of her arm, it's pretty bad. The situation in which it happened with one of my students, it was a female. Again, I guess it's more females, right? So she was going against a girl, and the girl started yelling, and she's like, she bit me. And this is a student who was one of my black belts, and she eventually started doing jiu-jitsu, and she ended up working her way up to a purple belt. So she was actually pretty good. Didn't seem like her character at all. And I'm like, no, she didn't bite you. No, again, she's one of my black belts. This is a person that's been around me for a while. She's integral. She's competed before. This doesn't seem like something she would do. And sure enough, when she showed her arm, there was a bite mark in her arm that looked like it was kind of deep. And I believe that it was a situation where I don't remember what position she was in or what kind of choke she was going for, but I guess while she ripped it and started choking, her mouth was probably open, and she clamped down, I believe, and that's where this bite mark came from. And it was a whole thing. We got into a big argument about it and stuff like that. And it was just like, I've known her for some time. Before that, there's never been an issue. After that, it's not like she's won every single time she's competed. I don't think that this was serious enough for her to have purposely done that. But again, to my point, this was only in one particular part of the arm, the part in which she was actually securing that choke. And again, if her mouth was open when she tried to go for it, this may have been an involuntary reaction. It doesn't happen often, but it's possible, playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying that she didn't bite on purpose because she's my student. It just didn't seem consistent with their behavior. For this, though, there's no doubt about it. Looks like she was seeking to get the choke. She was probably lifting the chin and trying to work her way to be able to get this choke. And as a result, she was biting. And there's just too much evidence looking at the bites, looking at the pattern of the bites, looking at how deep they are. I mean, you can literally see which teeth she clamped down with. She has impressions in her arm. You got to ban this girl. This girl can't come back. This is not something that was involuntary that many times on that different parts of the arm. You know, if you start breaking the skin and stuff like that, like this thing, it can get nasty. And I mean, you start talking about having to enforce all type of other rules for competitors, because now if this type of stuff's going on, you not only are you going to have to mandate mouthpieces, which many tournaments do, Naga being one of them, you have to start doing what? Forcing blood tests. Because now if people are biting people and you start piercing the skin and things like that, blood start going into people's mouth and stuff like that. And then you start talking about people having infections and all type of, it's so bad for the sport. And it really complicates the future competitors, because you have to start mandating different things in the event that these things transpire. When if you just be normal, a normal competitor, be civil, you know, use your head and compete with integrity, then these things wouldn't happen. So this is horrible. I'm glad that she documented this. I'm glad that it got shared. I'm glad that it got traction. I do think that stuff like this, as much as, you know, it does suck that it happened, I think that not only does it highlight and shine a light on certain things, but on the back end of it, which sucks, is it does, like I said, it could potentially complicate competitors, you know, ability to compete moving forward, because now you have this isolated incident, you know, that has happened. And now you have to change the way that all your rules set, the way that you run things, because of, we remember the infamous Miami bite situation. So now because of that, we've had to restructure or reformat our rules, and it just becomes more complicated for promoters and for competitors moving forward.
And this could have easily turned into a serious altercation where this could have turned into a fight. I mean, honestly, like if this would have happened to me, like I definitely would have hit that person.
I already got the back. I'm going ground to pound. Yeah. I'm ground to pound right there. You know, I'm ground to pound right there.
Have you seen Eddie Bravo's Invitational? They have combat jiu-jitsu where they're doing strikes. It's open hand, palm heel strikes. I don't know how I feel about that either. But this situation, somebody would have definitely got struck multiple times in the back of the head. And like I said, they are in a bad position where you are seriously going to get seriously hurt. And it would have just been a reflex thing.
Okay. Yeah.
Both people probably would have been suspended.
I agree. I agree. I mean, we've seen these things break out at the ADCCs back in the day, where I've seen fights happen because of the slapping. And that's happened quite a few times, where people are trying to, in no-gi, they're trying to get a control of a person's head, right? So they're trying to get that collar tie, and they're slapping a person the back of the neck really hard. And they're going, so now the other guy, he's slapping the other guy the back of his neck trying to go. And I've just seen it to a point where a guy just got mad and just slapped the dude's face and they just start fighting. Like because it's just such an aggressive, and you know, these guys are heavyweights. This is back in the day with the Jeff Monsons and things like that, where these big boys, pow, and they try to grab, pow, you know, and it's just like, you know, and it just turned, and that's, to me, that's just wrestling. So that's a lesser situation that I've seen fights break out for. Biting somebody and leaving multiple impressions in a person's arm like that, there's no way that that's not going to trigger the average person to where they're going to just, you know, they're going to break out in violence. You know, I mean, we're fighters to begin with. Many people now who are competing in no-gi jiu-jitsu are either current or aspiring MMA fighters. You know what I mean? And then, like you highlighted, that most of these jiu-jitsu academies have striking programs in them now. So they have the propensity to be violent. You know what I mean? These are people that are tapering their violence to be able to, you know, focus on their craft of jiu-jitsu, but it doesn't mean they don't have the capability to get violent. And I most certainly would have definitely had a different response if it was me, for sure.
I wonder if she felt it, like with her adrenaline running and everything at that time in the heat of battle. I wonder, did she even notice it, or did she feel like that maybe she could have possibly thought that her forearm was rubbing up hard against the mat? Maybe there was something on the mat or something like that. Because I'm just wondering why she didn't hit her.
Right. I wonder why she didn't hit her. And more importantly, again, if you rationalize it with logic, this did not happen. It couldn't have happened while she was choking her. This had to be happening when she was seeking the choke. So with that being the case, that meant that she continued past it from what I understand in the picture, because it looked like she secured the choke at some point, it means that she continued to fight through it to eventually get the choke. So I'm not really sure, what happened, but yeah.
All right, let's move on to our second topic. So I want to talk about Michael Jai White. So I sent you that clip of Michael Jai White on Vlad TV, and he was talking about Vlad asking what was the best martial art for self-defense in the street. And Michael, he went out of his way to say that it's not going to be karate. He said, I'm not going to say karate. He said boxing would be number one, and then wrestling would be number two. As far as what he would pick would be the best martial art for self-defense. Honestly, in my opinion, I think as martial arts practitioners, well, I was going to say that any martial arts practitioner, if they're doing things correctly, should be able to handle pretty easily a person that's untrained, right? But we know that there are some weird people in martial arts, strange people that they have belts and they say they're a black belt, but when you see them, they look like they've taught themselves on YouTube, or they made up their own martial arts style in their backyard. I've seen some weird people, man. One person came into my academy before and told me he had a chain belt. I had another person come into my academy, and tell me that he had a camouflage belt. I didn't even get into, because looking at these people and talking to them, you already could tell they weren't all there. They're not home, right? So, but listening to Michael, and then Vlad was trying to say, well, most fights go to the ground, and Michael was thinking that he didn't look like he believed that statement, because he said in there that he said, I know the jiu-jitsu guys are going to get upset with this, but he says fight starts standing up, and then one person is going to go down. So if you see the clip, just pay attention to what he's saying. And I don't agree with that, man. If a boxer and I think a boxer would be, but I think a boxer would be able to handle the average person. But any trained martial artist should be able to relatively handle a person, especially if you're the same age, same size, height, all of that. I'm gonna lean more toward the martial artists. It doesn't matter what style it is, right? I'm not gonna say that Taekwondo is better than the Tang Sudo or karate. I'm gonna put my money on the martial artists. Now, but when you have two specific skills go with each other, a boxer versus a Muay Thai guy, a boxer versus a kickboxer, I'm going to still go toward the person that has the most weapons, and that's going to be, the Thai guy, the kickboxer. Hell, depending on who the karate guy is, I might pick the karate guy also, because people seem to think that just because we do point fighting, we don't have strength and we can't knock people out. That's what it kind of seems like sometimes. But when you sit back and you look at, Raymond Daniels in Glory or Bellator, he's a karate guy. He can hit, he can knock people out just as easily as somebody that's a normal boxer. I don't know if I buy that that the boxer necessarily has the best martial arts skill. What do you think, Zeke? I know you watched the clip.
I did. I vaguely remember. I watched it, and I remember some of the things that were said. Some of it stands out with what you just said and resonates, and some of it I don't remember, or maybe I didn't see that particular part of it. I know it wasn't that long. I'm the type of person where if you
he got a couple of them that he talks about.
If you send me something and it's more than like 90 seconds, I'm like, no. I don't watch TV from my phone like most people do. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, people be like, watch this. And I look at the time, I'm like, 30 minutes, 5 minutes. I'm not watching this. Like, it's not happening. Like 90 seconds is what you get from, if you're lucky, because I might cut it off in 60. But I do remember saying this, and I'll weigh in. And I have no problem. Take a sip. We both take a sip.
Yeah, we did. Same time. That wasn't playing.
I have no problem being the person that sparks controversy, because I don't really care. And some things need to be said. Like, we tiptoe around stuff too much. So let me start with the question. The question was, what martial art do you think will work best in the street fight situation?
That was the question from Vlad to Michael.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. You said Michael said boxing, and then he said wrestling. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm getting ready to take this question to the left totally first, because I got to work my way back, and we can talk about this on another show too, Because I love the people who are viewing. I love you to weigh in. You can weigh in the comments or whatever, or we'll maybe talk about this and cover even more detail. I'm gonna try to be thorough and fast, as possible. But question is martial art, and the first things he said was boxing and wrestling. Now, just so you know, if you're not familiar with Michael Jai White,
I know where you're going.
If you're not familiar with Michael Jai White outside of Tyler Perry stuff, right? This dude got 8 black belts, like legitimate 8 black belts. Like, so people listen when he speaks because he knows what he's talking about, right? He can fight. Like, he ain't just an actor, he can fight. Right, he competed in sport karate tournaments. There's footage of him, unlike Bruce Lee. That's another topic for another one. We'll throw that in later on. Anyway,
he's part of Angel's martial arts family.
Okay, all right. Mm-hmm. It's interesting to me a guy with 8 black belts bringing those up, because the question then becomes: is boxing and or wrestling considered a martial art? Now, everybody who's looking at this and listening, you might be looking at me weird, right? But I want to break down the word martial art. Martial is war, right? And then art is obviously art. So martial arts is the art of war, right? Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know how many people going to war with boxing or with wrestling. Now, boxing is a sport. And if you ask an actual boxer, they will tell you that boxing is a sport, right? They call it the sweet science is what they call it. They call it the science and the sport. At no point in time do they reference it themselves as martial artists. Only people who do martial arts, interestingly enough, will call boxing a martial art, right? It has a singular weapon in punching and nothing else. And as far as defending in a street fight, it would be very effective with somebody who wants to sit there and go toe-to-toe with you, because, as Michael Jai White articulated, the fights start on the feet. Why he would shake his head that 90% of fights end up on the ground, I don't understand why, because that is the statistic. You can look it up. You can ask a police officer. You can ask anybody that's trained that watches fights. You can go back through your history of the stuff that pops up on your social media where you see these fights that are happening, which we tend to catch our attention. We stop it. It happens in Walmart, on the street, whatever. These fights end up on the ground. Now, to his point, he's saying typically one person goes to the ground and then the other one standing. And he wants to be the individual saying, well, I don't want to go to the ground. I'm going to put them on the ground and then I'm going to stay standing. But that isn't something you can always control, because if a person bum rushes you, right, where they just rush at you and you lose your footing and you fall down, all of that great boxing that you talked about and wrestling components, they're really not as strong. Going back to wrestling now as being a martial art. This is an argument because wrestling's been around before many of the arts. It was one of the first known type of, combative type of things. But the thing is that how can something that have no striking at all, 0 striking, be considered a martial art, right? The art of war. It has no striking in wrestling. There's not a single punch, kick, block, or nothing. Is that a martial art? So I want you guys to weigh in the comments. I'll try not to spend too much time, and I'll break it down even further. The next time we'll probably tackle this next week in the winner's circle. Is wrestling and boxing considered martial arts? All right. So with that said, if he believes those are martial arts, then I can see his point. Assuming they're not martial arts, all right, and taking those out, and you asked him to talk about karate not being one of them, that he would recommend or he would use, and then coupling that with what you said when you said that I think that it'll be effective for the typical untrained person. I want to make sure I point something out to you. I'm going to say 2 things, and they're going to seem like that they are contradictory to one another. One, and we say this all the time to people, when people laugh, I say this all the time, most people can't fight. Most people can't fight. They can't. So when you look at these fights that you see online all the time, and if you have trained in martial arts yourself, and you're looking at the way these people are swinging, they're fighting, how they respond in violent situations, how they even fall. Like most people, they can't fight. They don't have the ability to do that. But on the flip side of that, I think that we have to get out of this mindset, as popular as martial arts is and as accessible as it is, not just going into a dojo and signing up or dojang, but even online, as accessible, even on YouTube as it is. I think that we have to get out of this mindset that the average person that we go up to has never trained in martial arts and they're not going to throw nothing but haymaker punches, right? We got it. That was a very old, antiquated type of thought process back maybe in the 60s and 70s and the Bruce Lee, the Jim Kelly era, things like that, where these martial arts schools were, like we talked about last week, were places, proving grounds for hardening people the best and to weed out the weak and things like that. Nowadays in 2025, almost 2026, most people at some point in time has done some type of training, right? Boxing training, wrestling when they were in high school, took a couple of seminars, women's self-defense seminar, a couple karate classes when I was a kid. Now, these things might be so old and so outdated that they don't remember anything, so they go back to this crazy style of fighting. But we have to get out of this notion that the average person that we encounter nowadays will be untrained, especially given the circles that we tend to automatically put ourselves in. And what do I mean by that? As a martial artist, most of your friends are probably martial artists, which means that when you go out places, you're probably going to go out places with your friends and then their friends who are also martial artists. So somehow I'll probably end up in a circle where the majority of the people at some point in time actively trained, previously trained, because those are certain, unless we just randomly going out to a bar, right? Mm-hmm. But again, I can't assume that everybody's going to be untrained. That's the first mistake that you make to begin with. We teach our students this all the time. Don't underestimate people. Assume that the person that you're fighting is the same rank as you. The same way that people can look at you and don't think that you know nothing. Somebody else, you can look at them and assume that they don't, and they do as well, right? So when we start talking about the best and most effective art and system, and we start saying, well, karate's not it. Obviously, that depends on the practitioner, and it depends on the skill level of the practitioner, and then it depends on different variables like you just talked about and we said about whether the person is trained or untrained. Obviously, in a situation where a person is untrained, you can use your traditional martial arts or whatever system that you're learning and to be effective. If we're talking about overall, where I have a formidable opponent or somebody who has some knowledge or training or whatever, I told you before that I lean on things like, I believe systems like Muay Thai, I believe systems like Krav Maga, and I believe systems like Jiu-Jitsu are key. Those are king. And the reason why is because, Muay Thai, the science of 8 limbs, right? I'm using elbows, I'm using punches, I'm using knees, I'm using kicks. The truth of the matter is the more you train and the higher up you get, the more you realize how stupid it is to strike people with your closed hands and then seem that you're surprised that you break a knuckle, you get hurt, even if you're striking somebody correct, right? So that's the reason why we have open palm things in our systems, and we have other parts of the body to strike with. In traditional karate, they don't really teach you a lot about striking with the elbow, striking with knees, with stronger and more hardened parts of your body. All right, it's fall there, just about to be winter. Guess what? The way you defend yourself totally changed. I'm not punching somebody in December or February in Detroit on the streets with a closed fist and it's 15 degrees outside, and I'm going to hit you with a closed fist and think that I'm not going to shatter my hand? That's crazy. I can hit you with an elbow, though, right? I can hit you with a palm strike. I can hit you with a knee, right? So, again, these systems, I feel like because you're utilizing the whole body, there's a level of efficiency that's there that no matter what the skill level is of the other person, you're going to be successful because you can use more weapons and more parts of your body, right? And then you talk about Krav Maga. A close range Israeli martial arts system that, is taught to Israeli troops in war situations where they have weeded out all of the other stuff, right? That we teach in martial arts systems. They're not doing no forms. They can care less about that. They can care less about one steps and this many kicks in your curriculum and crescent kicks and things. They're not doing. No. How do I disable this person, maim and or kill this person? I got to get them out of there now, right? Because it's you're getting jumped. It ain't just this person. He got a homie over here. He got a boy over there. You're getting attacked, right? And this is a war situation where there's multiple enemies that you have to combat or deal with. You have to take somebody out. Let's strip all of the nonsense out that traditional martial art teaches for ranking purposes and get right down to how can I hurt this person the fastest and the worst. And close range, that's a very effective martial arts system to be able to use because I've seen beginners. I have a buddy. You guys see him. He's viral. Donovan, the Las Vegas Krav Maga. You see him all over TikTok, over Facebook. He's viral. Every video gets up, gets millions of views. I went over his academy, trained. I've sat in his classes before he was doing the TikToks, to be honest with you, because I've known him since I moved out here, and I'm very proud of him and everything that he's doing. He's doing an amazing job, and I've sat in, and he's very knowledgeable. He served in the military for many years, and he can tie in his training with stories of how he's actually had to use these things, and he has a no nonsense system. And I've seen him teach it to beginners, women, beginners, and kids. And I'm looking like, if somebody fool around and run to this kid or this woman, like, and she only been training a month, and I'm like, this woman will destroy a lot of individuals that have been training in traditional martial arts for a very long time, because they don't go through all of that system where you have to learn this. Listen, you leaving out today to go get in your car, and somebody is going to jump you today. And I ain't talking about the women that's no hardened people. I'm talking about middle-aged moms, and they out there elbowing, hammer fisting, growing kick, biting, slamming. And I'm like, wow, that's what you need. So I found that to be a very effective system because it weeds out all of the things that you don't need, and we implemented our system from a ranking standpoint, and it gets down to the nitty-gritty. How can I protect this middle-aged woman who's shopping for Christmas and she's accosted in the parking lot? Things like that. And then jiu-jitsu, as much as he says, I know it's going to make jiu-jitsu people upset and frustrated. I get why he said wrestling to some degree, because wrestling allows you to control where the fight's going to transpire at, right? So that he doesn't end up being the person on the ground if he doesn't want to be. He can take the person down and he can end up in a favorable position. But
one thing about wrestling that people never talk about, you can wrestle somebody down on the ground, but unless you just plan just to hold them there, as soon as you decide that you're going to strike or something, that person's going to either try and move, get up, block you, or whatever. So your wrestling is going to change, right?
But it's no longer wrestling once you start striking. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's no longer wrestling.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Jiu-jitsu has those components in there because jiu-jitsu has elements from wrestling and from judo, from a takedown perspective, to where you should be able to functionally take somebody down who is unskilled or maybe even skilled and get the person down. And then because it has a system to where the real jiu-jitsu starts when you get on the ground. Now, while I'm down there, I can start to employ the things that's necessary for me to be able to, choke the person, break their arm, their leg, and then get up and escape or whatever. And also what's great about jiu-jitsu is that if I end up on my back, right? Wrestling doesn't really teach that. Like, they teach you not to get on your back and how to scramble out of that position. But if I end up being the one that's on my back, I still can be dangerous. I still can be effective in a position that seems to be a vulnerable one. I still can make sure that I dictate how things go. I learn sweeps, submissions, and things like that. So I think that it's a very functional martial art to be able to use. Now, the question is if it's just one person or if you're being attacked by multiple people. Now, jiu-jitsu out the window if I'm being jumped, attacked by 2, 3, 4 people, because I don't want to be on the ground on the guard or have somebody on side control elbowing them and somebody starts stomping me on the back of my head, stabbing me in my back.
You're done.
Me. So again, he has to frame the question or frame the response to whatever the particular question is, because these things do change based on the situation. How many people are attacking me? How does this other person respond? And what does this person train if they're untrained? But overall, if I had to choose, those would be my 3 that I would think would be the most effective. For the reason I articulated: Muay Thai kickboxing because of the multiple weapons, Krav Maga because of the fact that it is weeded out anything but effective techniques, and then Jiu-Jitsu because of the fact that not only can I dictate where the fight goes, but once it gets to the ground, I can still be dangerous, even if I'm in a less than favorable position.
Yeah. All right, well, that's cool. Let's move on to our next topic. Another conversation Mike was having. I don't know if this was the same video or not, but he was saying that he believes that UFC 1 was rigged. Gracie rigged it, and now that is an interesting topic because it seems like that's a topic. I mean, that answer could be yes and no. That's what it kind of seems like, because I saw an interview with Bill Superfoot Wallace. And he was at the first UFC, and he was giving his point of view on what he experienced at the first one. And he was talking about the different rules of what people couldn't do. People couldn't have any equipment. People couldn't tape their hands. They couldn't wrap their hands. People, the one guy had a boxing glove on. He can only wear one boxing glove. He couldn't wear two. But I also heard that guy talking. He said that the reason he only wore one, but he said it was kind of silly to even wear a glove if he couldn't wrap his hand. People were complaining that Royce had on his full gi, and nobody else could have on anything. People couldn't wear shoes. People couldn't wrap their knee or wear a knee brace or anything like that. And also wrestlers weren't permitted in the first UFC. I did not know that. I never even thought about that wrestlers weren't there. Now, once again, also even maybe some of the top kickboxers at that time in 93 weren't. I mean, why would some of the top kickboxers participate in this activity that they don't know anything about? It's a new event. Why would I risk myself, my health, my body in this? Glory at this time, it was just pretty much a glorified tough man contest. So why would some of the top competitors at that time even participate in something like this? So you might not have gotten the best of the best when it came to strikers. Like it wasn't a top boxer in the first UFC or a top kickboxer. They didn't grab anybody. One of the top Muay Thai fighters, Bas Rutten was around back then, but he wasn't in the first UFC. So do you think it was rigged, or you just think that they just put it together the best way possible to highlight Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and to help Royce, because they know Royce was going to pretty much dominate?
Well, first of all, I did see the comment that Michael Jai White made, and then I watched a little bit of the video with Bill Superfoot Wallace and that whole investigation, and I found it to be interesting. And I'm glad that the guy, from what I saw, I didn't get a chance to see the whole thing because it was like a half an hour long, but I saw he was doing his due diligence to follow up on the claims that Bill Superfoot Wallace made and debunk some of those things, as well as try to give credence to it. He didn't just take what he said, and just at face value and run with it. Mm-hmm. He actually investigated, and when I have time, I'll watch the remainder of it as well. But from what I saw, he did a really good job. I'm gonna say this to your point about none of the big names being a part of it, and for Michael Jai White saying this as well. I'm simply not gonna be the first person that's gonna sail on the Titanic. I'm not gonna do it. That boy gonna have to take a couple of voyages first, and that's because I know obviously what happened, right? So people wanted the boat the first time. So it's I have one of my parents of one of my students who became a student, and then he's a friend of mine now. Him and I talk all the time. And he's big on cruises now. He's the cruise man. He went on one, he's hooked. And they came out with that new Icon of the Seas. I think it was earlier this year, or it was last year, early this year, but it was the brand new one. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm getting on that." And I said, "I tell you what, you let me know how I go." I said, "That boy gonna have to take about 100. It's gonna have to take about 100 sales before I get on there. I don't care how nice it is." You know what I mean? That boy, I need that plane to take about 1,000, 1,500 trips before I get on it. Don't put me on a new plane. Don't put me on a new boat. Listen, I'm a name. I'm Mike Tyson. I'm Bas Rutten. I'm whoever. I'm not about to compete in this first event that you just a minute ago said that the rules are not clear. Another thing, and this is what Michael Jai White didn't think of or didn't bring up, and I thought about this, and after I saw, what he said and in preparation, for today, is it was illegal, the first one or two of them that they had. What people don't know is that after it was over with, they went outside and they were arresting the participants after the event. Oh yeah, I think it was after the second one. So after they heard about it the first time, they went on, because it was banned in most places. They went to one or two states. I think it was Denver. I'm not sure. Yeah. They went to one or two places where it wasn't banned yet at the point in time, because they started getting a lot of traction. And they said, if you host this event, whoever participates in it will be arrested. This is assault, it's battery, it is not legal, and you will be arrested. They competed. I don't remember if it was the first one, but I think it was at the second one, because at that point in time they already had one, and it had got some traction. But it was
both of the first two weren't in Denver.
It might have been, but and that's why I think it was the second one, because after they had the first one, and then it started to get some traction. They were like, okay, like this is not right. This is tough man stuff. This is illegal. So that they had a premise, I believe, and a basis at that point in time to be able to say this is illegal. We will arrest you. So people competed. It was very much undergroundish, even though it was broadcasted. It was not legal, right? The UFC just maybe within the last 10 years just got it to be legal in every one of the states. MMA still wasn't legal in all the states. So they were still
one of the last ones.
Yeah. So it wasn't legal. So when he's talking about the best people wasn't participating, it was either the first one or the second one. When they participated, once they left to go outside, the police were out there and they arrested each one of the competitors one by one for having participated in the event. Now, number one, you're telling me that I'm the best in kickboxing or boxing or whatever else, and the rules are not clear to begin with. And then on top of it, it is not sanctioned and it is illegal. And number three, people who are participating in it is getting arrested. And then number four, it didn't pay especially well. So what does it benefit me while you're sitting up there saying the top people is not a part of it? Of course, they're not a part of it. They're not getting paid what they're worth. It's illegal. They may get arrested, and they don't even know what the rules are. So it's no surprise why he's trying to make it seem like, oh well, the best people. There's no surprise, you know what I mean? Because most people don't want to be the first one on the dance floor. They want to sit back and they want to observe and watch things and see how things play out, and then they become a part of it when they gain some clarity and they've had a couple of things to be able to watch and do some research and compare it to. That's number one. As relates to whether or not I feel that it was rigged, again, I did watch some of the things that the same documentary that you're discussing with Bill Superfoot Wallace. I did find it interesting that many of the things he brought up, the gentleman was able to very easily debunk by being able to go speak to those people, do research and things like that. So it did shed a bad light. It shed a great light on his investigation ability and skills. It didn't seem like he was trying to be biased or trying to defend the fact that it wasn't rigged. He just wanted to make sure that the facts were the facts and it wasn't just being taken at face value because somebody with a name like Bill Superfoot Wallace said it, and then that must be true because he was at the very first one. So I really appreciated the investigation that went into it on how he prepared. One thing I'll say is this. For those who don't know, the UFC was primarily Horion, who was one of the older brothers' idea. He was the businessman. He was the smart one of the group. Not saying the other ones were dumb, but he was the businessman and the visionary. He understood, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Gracie's inaction came first. And this was something that he was able to see how it took Storm with them coming over to America, them putting up a $50,000 challenge to say that if you can beat any of our family members, we're going to come to your dojos. And this is the thing. If you beat us, we'll give you 50 grand, right? But if we beat you, we get the footage. That's all we wanted. We want the footage. We're going to record this and winner gets the footage. And if you beat one of our people, we'll give you $50,000. $50,000 that they didn't have. I'm sure they didn't have it because they just came up from Brazil, right? They didn't have that kind of money, but they just knew that we hadn't seen anything like that. They did their research, they studied, and they went to schools and they embarrassed people and they kept that footage. And when they started making money off from Gracie in actions, and the brother, the visionary, was like, wait a minute, this can be done on a big scale. This can be on a tournament level. Like, we can't go to everybody's school. So he came up with this idea. I'm summarizing, right? I'm not
you're doing good,
exactly like this. I'm summarizing. But he came up with this idea, which is the UFC, you know what I mean, to say that we can do this on a grander stage, right? And this has gotten some traction behind it. So this is something that we can actually do on a grand stage. So obviously, he's going to create the rule set, and the rule set is going to most likely be favorable for his lineage, his family line, right? I don't know if he bankrolled it or what, but obviously being the visionary, he's going to make he's going to make the rule set to whereas it's most favorable for him, or for his family member, for his people. Rigged, I don't know about it being rigged. He debunked these things. Some of the things were a little bit over the top. They ran a smoke machine so the guy can get asthma when he went out and then not be able to,
he didn't have asthma though.
He didn't even have asthma. They didn't let the sumo guy in there because he would have laid on Hoist and Hoist wouldn't have been able to get up. So that's why they didn't let him go through to the next round. The sumo guy said that his brother stopped the fight. So it's fun to have these conspiracy theories. Rigged, I think that's kind of a harsh word to be able to use. I do think that the rules were tailored to make sure that they had as much of an advantage as possible. There were certain variables they couldn't control. Remember, what was his name? Chemo that went through and ended up smoking him. And what was that? The third UFC, I think it was. What was his name?
Yeah.
I think his name was Chemo or something like that.
Yeah.
He gave him fits, man. He didn't
even finish it, right? Hoist didn't go back out there for next.
Yep.
Next
it was either the third or the fourth one. So
I think it was the third.
Yeah, it was the third. So the thing is this. Listen, this is brand new. This can change our way of life and introduce our system to all of America at one time. Of course, I'm putting a risk up. I've come up with this idea. Of course, if you let me come up with the rules, that's why you need, a non-biased, people that's on a board that do these things and they don't have involvement, because anybody that have direct involvement with anything at this level of magnitude, if you ask them, of course they're going to pick a rule set that's going to be favorable for them. That's the reason why you get these people that are not involved and that are unbiased. But I believe that at the beginning stages, absolutely. But when it started to take off around the third or the fourth UFC, and they started bringing these other people in, and they didn't have as much control over the rule set anymore, you saw how much he struggled at that point in time, because there has been 2 or 3 of them that's been out there. Some of the better fighters were becoming a part of it. The Ken Shamrocks, the Chemos and things like that. And then they started to struggle and have a difficult time. But we already have a footprint. Our name is already known. My family's already known. We've already relocated here to America. We've already got some money. We've already got some traction. So at this point in time, we got to fight for it. But we're rolling and we're trending in the right direction. The vision is now out there. And then now, we have accomplished, our point in being able to introduce Gracie Jiu-Jitsu to America. I don't think it was rigged. I just think that you can use that word because it's much more clickbait, and it's
definitely clickbait.
It's definitely going to get you to want to click it and hear these conspiracy theories. I'm not saying everything he's saying is wrong. I'm just saying that I think that that the rules were definitely tailored to be able to favor them or in some ways, but that doesn't mean that the people and the combatants still could not have went out there and been successful. I mean, so
yeah. So let's get on to the professor's perspective. I got to tell you though, man. So the main game is going to definitely be split, man, because Chris and Jeff and Angel, they definitely believe that boxing and wrestling are martial arts. So our chat is gonna be blowing up tomorrow. I just know. All right, man. Let's go.
Let's do it. Let's go. I'm ready. I'm ready for all the smoke. I remember we talked about this briefly with me, you, Angel, when I first came to be a part of the main game.
Yeah.
So let's do it, and let's make this a topic for next week. So you guys tune in. I'm taking all the smoke. You bring it on.
Oh man, them brothers had me heated last time, man.
That's what they said. I remember we talked about that.
Yeah, they had me heated, but it was a fun.
Come on with it
in the chat, man. So, all right, here we go.
I'm here with you.
Here we go. I had to mute you for a second. There you go, man.
Okay, so this one I didn't have a chance to be able to kind of shorten it like I did the other ones into a short. So I'll try my best to talk us along. And so I worked with, this was one of my students at the time. His name's Tristan. I worked with a heavier, bigger person on purpose because I wanted to show how this can work regardless of size. This is what I call reverse seatbelt position. So if you train in jiu-jitsu, from the back, the seatbelt is typically going over the shoulder and then under armpit, clasping the hands. It's the same principle here. I'm just doing it from the bottom. So I start with the reverse seatbelt. I'm going for a straight arm lock here. So what I did is I opened my hands. I pushed his face, which was very important. It allowed me to be able to scoot out. All right. And then I turned on my shoulder. I took my leg and my knee and my shin, pushed pressure on his shoulder so he can't pop up. All right. Or he can't roll out. All right. So I got the reverse seatbelt. I hook. I'm going to take that arm. I'm going to push his face. And when I push his face, watch, I post on the floor with my right foot. And then I'm going to scoot. So as I scoot out on my side, you have to be all the way on your side. I'm pinning him down using that top leg right there on his shoulder. I slide back to his elbow. and then I'm going to put downward pressure on his elbow, and it's going to be a straight arm lock. Now, what's important for you to do, you're going to have to use that neck. That neck is going to secure his wrist into place. That's a very important part of this. So imagine this being a bridge, and in the middle of the bridge is the weakest part. So if you think of like a rope bridge that you walk across between two sides, one of those old rinky wooden bridges, right, that you walk across, and you always see that middle part is typically the weakest part. That's how this works. So right here where the elbow is at, that's going to be the weakest part. That's where I'm collapsing the pressure with the forearm. So again, I start with the reverse seatbelt position here. All right, this keeps him down. I want to keep him down and control him from posturing up. So I have the reverse seatbelt. I'm putting pressure. Once I'm ready to start the move, I open and I'm going to hook his arm, right? Use my right arm to hook. And then I'm going to use that left hand to push his face. All right, that pushes his face. That gives me an opportunity to post on the floor with the right foot, scoot out, and then I throw that leg up. Lots of pressure with that knee. If you can look right there where my neck is at, so look, his wrist is trapped there. I'm using my neck to trap his wrist. And then I'm going to clasp my hands. I'm going to put pressure right down, right there at the elbow. And then he's going to tap. That is going to be the straight arm lock from the bottom of the guard. One more time. Clasping down, reverse seatbelt position, hooking. All right, push the face. Very important. Not enough people are doing that anymore. Pushing the face when they're going for arm bars or arm locks. Very important. Post on the floor, scoot out, and look how I get that leg up nice and high. Lots of pressure right there. And then look, I've used my neck to be able to pin his wrist, and then I put pressure right down at the weakest point, which is the elbow. All right, that's the straight arm lock. So from my perspective, this is a very, very strong move to be able to catch. It's something not a lot of people expect. All right, so I wouldn't use the word unconventional, but it's a really good way to be able to, catch a person off guard versus going for the traditional arm bars. As jiu-jitsu popularizes, we start to find out that people are just used to familiar with things. They're used to seeing you trap up an arm bar. They're used to seeing you throw up a triangle. So a lot of these moves that have kind of become antiquated or pushed, to the back, right? What I find about jiu-jitsu is interesting is that you'll hear people say play or game. Everybody starts to play the same game around the same time. So everybody's doing the Berimbolo around the same time. Everybody's doing this particular guard around the same time. This is what they, and I'll ask my friend, what they doing now? What they doing? Oh man, I said, my friend, your instructor, my friend Tyrone. Every time I ask Tyrone, what they out there doing? Oh man, they out there right now. Let me tell you what they doing right now. What they doing? Meaning everybody out here is playing the same game. I don't. What I do is I make sure that I have an arsenal of moves that people have pushed to the back, not because they're not effective, but because they're all playing the same game, what's trending now. And then I'm able to be successful by using these moves that most people are no longer practicing. You get a wave of new people that's in. It gets lost all the way in the back shelf, the basement somewhere. People forget about it. You can use moves like this to catch people all the time because they're not prepared. So this is a really good move. Straight arm lock from the bottom of the guard. My perspective, very effective.
Nice. All right, man. We had an hour, man. You got any closing remarks?
Nope, no closing remarks. Great show. Can't wait to hear it. Blow up the chat. Blow up the comments. Come in next week. Remember, is boxing and is wrestling a martial art? We're gonna expound on that next week. I want to hear what say you are those martial arts. All right, I'm ready.
I think we're about to get Angel to hop back on the show, man. Now, I think he will make a special appearance for this one
next week. Bring whoever want to be a guest. You sure we'll get you on there too. Come on,
There we go. All right, everyone. Stay safe, stay strong. I'll let you next week. And I'm going to end this.
Go Lions.
There we go.